The Seattle Seahawks had another unlikely hero on their defense when it came to their pass rush. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. We have made it to Friday, made it to the end of the week, made it to the cusp of the weekend. And you guys know what we like to do on Friday here. We go through pass rush numbers. We're looking at pressures. We're looking at how often does the defensive player actively disrupt the quarterback when he's trying to throw the ball. So, one thing that I drew some attention to last week was the massive discrepancy between the Pro Football Focus numbers and the Pro Football Reference numbers. And I like to use Pro Football Reference because I think they're a little bit more stingy, which I like for pressures. Because I feel like Pro Football Focus is giving credit to players that shouldn't really be getting credit for affecting the quarterback. So I like to use Pro Football Reference, but last week there was a monster discrepancy between what one site told us and what the other site told us, and it was to a level that it shouldn't happen. So let's check again this week, see what's up. Let's remember that Pro Football Focus gave the Seahawks, I believe, 20 pressures against the Falcons. So that's what Pro Football Focus says. Let's see what Pro Football Reference has. All right, so number of pressures according to Pro Football Reference. Let's remember a few things. The Falcons have a really good offensive line. Falcons also have a very good rushing attack. Those two things make it harder to rush the quarterback. So I wouldn't have expected monster numbers. And let's see if we actually did get monster numbers or not according to Pro Football Reference. Defensive line, pretty thin. We had 2 pressures from Leonard Williams, including his sack. And then we had 1 pressure from Jarran Reed. And you can already immediately see the big discrepancy between PFF and PFR. Byron Murphy, no pressures. Roy Robertson Harris, no pressures. Both those guys got credit for a pressure on PFF. Leonard Williams got credited with more than 2. It might have been like 4. I think Jarran Reed had like 4 as well, or 3 or 4. So already you can see a clear difference in standard. But Leonard Williams continues to have what I think is a better than expected season. He's missed games. He's played in some games clearly less than 100%. And he's got 14 pressures on the year. I was giving him 20 the whole season. If I knew he was going to miss basically 2 games and then play another game ineffectively because he's still hurt, I wouldn't have said that. So that's, I think, a really promising sign that we're getting such good stuff out of Leonard Williams. It indicates that he's got a real good chance of living up to that contract, even going into next year and the year after. So that's about it on the defensive line. Linebackers, nothing. Baker's obviously out of here now, by the way, so we're going to be replacing, well, not replacing, but we're going to be filling in Ernest Jones IV going forward. And I think these numbers will go up in the presence of Ernest Jones IV because he is such a good blitzing linebacker. But yeah, you can see that over the first part of the season, we weren't getting much help in the blitz category from linebackers. It just wasn't working. Edge rusher, and this is where the surprising hero comes in, right? Nwosu's out. We're not talking about him. Mafe had the 1 pressure, which was the strip sack. Derek Hall had a pressure. Again, very different from how PFF evaluates things. PFF gave Hall, 4 pressures? Mafe got like 3 on PFF. But Dre'Mont Jones, he gets full credit here, man. Dre'Mont Jones gets credit for 4 quarterback pressures, and he also had the sack on top of that. Well, not on top of it, but with it, he had a sack. So not only is that the most pressures he's had in any game all season, it might be the more pressures than he's had in any game as a Seahawk. And that was probably his best game as a Seahawk so far. And you can see how much we needed that, because you take out those 4 pressures, you've got 3 pressures from the defensive line, 2 from the edge rushers, and then what, right? Who else is going to help you out here? It's not going to be the linebackers. It's not going to be Nwosu, who's on the bench. It's going to be Dre'Mont Jones, and he came up big time. And you can see that even though this is a product of my expectations not being that high, he's probably going to end up meeting the expectations by the end of the season, surpassing them even. Now, that doesn't change the fact that we probably can't keep him around in 2025. Doesn't change the fact that he is still overall not performing to expectations, but played a really good game, and we needed it. Without it, I don't think we win that game. Certainly not the guy you would have expected to step up on this defense, right? You would have expected it from Mafe or Hall, but Dre'Mont Jones, man, he came through when we needed it the most. All right, the rest of this video is going to be pretty quick because cornerbacks, nothing, zeros across the board. Not surprising, right? A lot of our cornerbacks didn't play in this game. And safeties, right? Nothing from the safeties. Didn't see a lot of even trying to blitz them, really, so it's not like they got opportunities and just didn't cash in, but no pressures from the safeties, and that's how you get to a grand total of 9. So, given the fact that you're playing a Falcons team with a really good offensive line and a really good rushing attack, I think 9 is actually fine. I don't mind that at all. I think 9 pressures in that game is actually pretty good. But we're going to have to pick it up at some point here, right? Because we have slowed down very clearly after starting the season out extremely strong. We started the season out great. Even in the miserable Detroit game, we still came away with a respectable performance. But we've definitely seen it turn down a little bit. You know, the 49ers game did us no favors. And, I mean, not getting to double digits in a game, I'm not saying it's bad. I don't think that it is because the Falcons are legit up front. But you can see how we're kind of falling behind pace right now. Now, I will say this. My pace was assuming that Uchenna Nwosu was going to play and play well. Obviously, that's not the case. So I would say that the expectations need to be tempered a little bit when Nwosu's not out there. But we need to crank up a little bit here, especially if we want to win some of these games. Like, we're playing a Bills team this weekend that doesn't have great players on their offensive line. You should be able to crank up the pressure a little bit, and that's the only way you're going to get this win. You're going to get games against teams that have not really played all that well up front this year, offensive lines that are weak. You know, the Rams, they certainly looked better last night when they had some of their players back, but overall that offensive line has not been that good. You're going to be getting games against teams that are, you've got an advantage up there, right? Like, the Vikings might have just lost Christian Darrisaw last night for the season. You play them later. Excuse me. Jets' offensive line hasn't really impressed me so far. We play them a little bit later. So, crank it up, guys. We can get to 200 pressures, especially when you add a guy like an Ernest Jones IV. But, got to go out there and do it. All right, so that's it for this video. I will see you guys later today. More videos coming. It is Friday, and we got plenty of stuff to talk about. But I wanted to lead off with the pass rush nut data like I always do. And it's okay. It's pretty okay. I'm interested to see how things change with the new player coming in this week, but it's pretty okay. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Go Hawks. And pass rush, still better than most of what we saw last year.